Hi, welcome back. If you are just joining us, or if you are circling back after a break. So we are going to get started with session 3, data analytics with Databricks AI BI. So before we do get started, for those who are just joining us, or maybe joined late and missed some of the intro remarks, I do want to just go over a couple administrative items. So please, as our speakers present, remember to stay muted, minimize distractions and interruptions. If you have a question during the presentation, please submit it using our Zoom chat. At the end of the session, the questions will be answered by our session speakers. Just a note on that, that is always just time permitted. So our plan is always to have a Q&A at the end, but if our speakers do run over or have any extra information to be adding, then our Q&A, all questions will be answered. We'll make sure to get those questions to our presenters, and all questions will be submitted in our Q&A wrap up and then posted to the CCSQ DNA portal after the event. So just keep an eye out there. Or if any questions come in kind of as we're wrapping up or we don't get to them or they need more clarification, they'll be there as well. So with that, I'm going to introduce our two session speakers today. We have Doug Souza, who's a solutions architect for Databricks, and then also Sheila Stewart, who's a senior solutions architect for Databricks. So with that, I'm going to pass things over now for the AI BI overview.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Douglas Souza. On behalf of Bob Kilker and Sheila Stewart and everybody at Databricks, just wanted to express our appreciation for inviting us to participate in your data camp today. A bit about myself. I've been in the CMS Medicare Medicaid world for over a decade now. Most recently, I was the lead data scientist with the Advanced Provider Screening Program under the Center for Program Integrity here at CMS, which I just left that post in September. So I've only been with Databricks for a couple of months. And then on a personal note, my mother is disabled and has been on Medicare since I can remember, basically my entire life. So I have a professional and personal interest in seeing the success of CMS. So I'm just really excited to be here today. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit over the data intelligence platform, which is what we call the Databricks data lakehouse once we have infused it with this AI that we have gotten from Mosaic. So as I'm sure most of you are familiar, everything at Databricks starts with this open data lake at the bottom, as you can see here, where you keep all your data in whatever storage account that you like. It's completely open. We then go up to this Delta Lake layer where we sort of unify everything and bring it all together. So that this is how it acts both as a warehouse and as a data lake, and why we call it the lake house. And as you guys migrate to that next level above the Delta Lake, which is the Unity catalog, we're going to be able to enable a ton of new use cases and tools available to you through our acquisition of Mosaic AI. So as you can see there in the top left corner, Mosaic enables data science and a lot of our data AI, like machine learning flow and development of models like that. But we're not just limited to that. Mosaic has allowed us to infuse AI into every part of the Lakehouse platform, including Unity Catalog, and what we're going to talk about today, which is Databricks SQL and the visualizations that go along with it. So. And by the way, I'm only going to be speaking for a few minutes here. But the meat and potatoes, the exciting part of this is Sheila's demo, where she's going to actually show you everything that I'm going to be talking about. And then we're going to do some Q&A, et cetera. So feel free to jump in anytime, but I think you're going to get a lot out of this demo. So let's get through this part and then we'll get to the good stuff. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so we're just going to quickly talk about a few things or two things today. We're going to talk about our dashboards, and then Genie, which is our exciting new LLM, which is going to allow you to sort of take your dashboards to a different level. It's like having your chat GPT for your data and only your data. So next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you back up one? One thing I do want to mention here too is that both of these are powered by Databricks SQL, which, not to brag, but we're the world record holder in Databricks, excuse me, in SQL speed. So we're the fastest data warehouse on the market in the cloud right now, bar none. And then finally, all of this is going to be governed by Unity Catalog once you move on to that. So that is, you're going to be able to share this with Unity Catalog, see where all the data came from, and then be confident that it is secure and not being shared with anybody who shouldn't have access to it. Okay, sorry, thanks. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about dashboards for a minute. Next slide. Okay, so as I'm sure most of you are familiar, we have a pretty robust suite of visualization tools and dashboard tools. So once you move over to Unity Catalog, all of these are going to be enhanced. Again, we're taking everything you've got now and we're just infusing it with an extra layer of AI and LLM magic so that we can take it sort of to the next level. So that is, all of this BI development is now going to be assisted by AI. So you're going to be able to talk to your dashboard, sort of have it help you out there. It's all going to be unified and governed by your Unity catalog. So you're going to be able to see not just you like basically secure the data, but when you get to these dashboards, you're going to be able to see where the data came from and how it was transformed all the way from cradle to grave. And then finally, you're going to get these insights at scale, right? So you're going to be able to share this across your organization instantly, and being confident you're only sharing with individuals who should have access to it. Okay, next slide, please. And again, we're talking about lightning fast dashboards. Again, we're built on the fastest, most performant Databricks, or excuse me, SQL warehouse on the market. And again, you can scale this. You can access all of your data, or you can access only some of your data. And then you can limit it and share that out with individuals so that you're not worried about them or anybody in particular getting access to everything. You can limit who sees what and what data they can play around with. And then finally, once you built these models, it's really easy to deploy them, right? Everybody who has access to the Databricks platform can instantly have all this shared out. Oh, I see a question jumped in. Oh, okay. We'll take that at the end. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So that's dashboards. Let's talk about Genie, which is basically dashboards, but with that LLM magic infused into it. So next slide. So Genie is basically dashboards beyond, right? So this is where you're going to be able to have a conversation with your dashboards. If you're familiar with ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity, you're very familiar with this natural language process of having a conversation with an agent. In this particular case, you're going to select the data you want to analyze, and then it will only look at that data, and you're going to be able to only converse about that data. Right? And you can be confident that the data, or excuse me, that the answers you're getting back are accurate because it cites its sources and provides you back code that you can then validate to determine whether or not it was accurate. And finally, the whole thing is governed by Unity Catalog. So I keep mentioning Unity Catalog and governance here because it really is one of the most critical things. I just know from my personal experience, security was such a big deal. Who we could share data with, who could see what was so critical, and being able to have full transparency into who can see what it was so important. And so I think I love this feature about Unity Catalog. Okay, next slide. Okay. And as I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but if not, if you haven't used an LM before, one of the great things about this is you can have this catalog or this conversation, but then you can leave and come back. So as you can see over there on the left-hand side, these are all these shared conversations about data that the user has had in the past. So they can go back to that after they maybe have had other conversations with colleagues or done other exploration and continue that conversation as if they're just, again, talking to a colleague and develop more information and continue to explore. And again, you're not only receiving these responses in natural language like you might have seen in typical LLMs, but you're also going to get back tables and visualizations along with the code that generated them. Okay, next one. Okay, so let's dive into the demo. I think this is a really exciting part. So I'm going to kick it over to Sheila Stewart to walk us through that demo. Thanks, Sheila.
Everyone, good afternoon. Julia, is it okay if I share my screen for the demo? Thank you. Let me show it. All right, perfect. All right, so what we're going to do today is kind of walk through analytics on Databricks. I know a lot of you are familiar with the Databricks platform as a whole, but what we thought we'd do today is kind of go through and walk through different analytics capabilities. Of course, there's the Databricks AI BI, which Doug was talking about earlier, which shows you, which allows you to do dashboarding. It allows you to kind of interact with your data using natural language, or what we call Genie in this case. And I also want to stress like what you can do right out of the box right now versus kind of new capabilities that are coming to you as the team is migrating into Unity Catalog, which is about to be started. All right. So what you see here, and hopefully you all are familiar with this, is the Databricks platform. And so I really wanted to kind of walk through from the basics of let's get some data and let's just play around with it. So what I'm going to do here is, and this is not necessarily specific to Unity Catalog, but how I'm showing it here is my Unity Catalog. That's what I have working in my space right now. What you probably all have is a different catalog name right here, something for the catalog that you have currently. In here, one thing I have done is I have uploaded some CMS data, some CMS public use data into my S3 bucket. Now, when I'm in here, what I want to do first of all, and you can see these are kind of CSV files that I downloaded. They're inpatient and outpatient claims from the years 2008 to 2010. So sample data from those times. And very simply, and I've done this once, but just to show you kind of how easy some of this can be, is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table out of this inpatient data. So I'm going to specify kind of the location I want to be able to work with this. So this would be like the catalog where you would like to see this data. And I have a CMS data catalog. And I'm just going to call this inpatient test. So this is my inpatient test data. You'll see right away when I said I wanted to create this table, and it was CSV format based on the extension, and it was able to take that data and kind of quickly show me how this data is looking, and it lets me know that it's looking at the data. It's able to pull out the different column names and so on. And so when I hit create table, it's taking this, and now it was showing me a small sample. And now what it's doing is it's going through and it's writing this into my S3 bucket in that Parquet or Delta format as part of that Delta Lake that Doug was talking about, not that base layer of the lakehouse paradigm. One kind of neat thing, and you won't have this currently, but you'll have this going forward after migration, is that as soon as I put in this data, and remember, I'm not a healthcare expert by any means, and I am not incredibly familiar with claims data, but right away, looking at the different column names, and this is giving me a summary of the type of data in there. So as a basis for analytics, the first thing is, what is this data that I have? Looking at these column names, I'll admit I couldn't tell you what any of them were just by looking, except maybe like a provider ID. But this kind of gives me a nice description of what this data actually has within it. And I use this as kind of the basis to understand what this data was for any sort of analytics that I did. Now, since this is not something you're going to have out of the box right now, I really want to go into the notebooks, because that's the kind of the first basic step to doing analytics. You can use a notebook. So what I've done is I've actually created a notebook, and you'll find notebooks in your workspace. So, and unfortunately, mine is a little bit crazy in my workspace, but I created a notebook called CMS Claims. And all I'm doing, and I'll kind of show you what I did, because I took that inpatient data, and what I did was I just quite simply, using SQL, I can use other languages in my notebook too, but For analytics, I know that SQL is a widely used language, and people really know that pretty well. You can also write in Python, SQL, Scala, or R as well. But from right here, all I'm doing is, this is the data that I ingested. This is the first time I did it. I call it inpatient claim sample. And all I'm doing is a select star from it so I can look at it. And you can see right away, you can start looking at that data that's within this table right now. I can kind of go through, see what the different things are, or different fields are within this data, and just kind of get an idea of what is in this data set. At the same time, I mean, this is hard to look at and say, oh, I know exactly what's going on with my data. So another thing I can do is I can do some sort of data pipeline. What I did was I added columns, because for claims data, I thought the dates would be probably one of the major things that we'd like to look at. How are claims coming in over time, whether it be inpatient or outpatient? So I just created some extra columns on my data. And in doing that, I'll show you what it ended up looking like. My inpatient claims. I have my data, and what I did, let me scroll down a bit so we can see it. What I did here was I just added columns. Let me scroll to the end so you can see what I added. I actually added these date columns. So it's that first level of curation of my data to make it more ready for my analytics. I just did something basic, so that way because I knew exactly kind of how I wanted to look at my data, and these were coming in, since it was a CSV and I didn't know what was in it. I didn't know that these were dates originally, so I just made a simple conversion to make it a date, and I can look at it that way. Now, as we go down, also at the same time with that, I talked about analytics and visualizations, and then I didn't show you anything. So what I want to show you here is that there's a couple of different things you can do from within the notebook. There's different visualizations available to you. You could use ggplot, you can use matplotlib. So there's lots of different visualization tools that you can actually work on within the course of a notebook. You can also, by clicking on this plus sign, you can actually create visualizations and data, or a data profile of this data. So I just ran this data profile right before this meeting. And what the data profile is doing, and I guess it's not rendering fully since I ran a while ago, is that it's actually going through and looking at every column within this data set. It's telling me, data quality, how much data is missing from this, how many nulls, zeros, what is the range of values within each of these columns. So it kind of gives me a little bit of an idea of what I'm looking for. You can see here this primary claim amount. I'm not sure exactly what this means right now, but you can see it's 97% zeros. So maybe we're not going to get as much information about, by looking at the data through here, but this gives us an idea about data quality and what information is available within these claims. At the same time, I can create a visualization, which is what I did here. And one thing I'm going to do, I see questions coming in. If they're about this screen, I want to make sure that I'm answering them as I go through this a bit. Let me look.
I was going to say, I think right now the only questions, we were able to get some of them answered by DNA team members, but
Okay.
I see the one you answered, and then the only other one right now is the CSV file saving on the S3 space. We cannot visualize files on the S3 from Databricks yet. Is that something new we can apply on our accounts? And then Derek was able to
Perfect.
kind of step in there and help out.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And so one thing I was showing is also the visualization. So this is the baseline. I don't really necessarily want to make a dashboard right now. I just want to do analytics on my data for me, or I want to collaborate with somebody else on this notebook, because we can collaborate with others who have access to this data as well. So what I did was and I'll show you, I created a visualization, much like Excel. You can kind of choose your visualization type. I'll do a pie chart maybe, or actually I'll just keep it with a bar chart. You can choose your x-axis, your y-axis. You're able to, oh, these are just the labels, the series, you can choose. So you can kind of choose what you want to be visualizing in here. So if I wanted to do, then this is probably not going to make any sense, but provider number by the count. So each of these provider numbers, how many, you know, I'll save that and put that in here. So now I've just created a second visualization. It's running it on all of the data now, not just a sample. And when it runs and displays to us, we'll be able to look at it. It's a little bit dynamic. We can start going through and seeing how many claims within this entire data set was based on a specific provider as we go through. So as this runs, this always happens. As you run something, it always takes slower than it's like a watch pot waiting to boil. So you can see, oh, there's a lot by this one provider, and that's their provider ID. There were 772 claims in the inpatient claims based on this one provider. So you can start kind of looking throughout here, creating the visualizations you like, and so on, to be able to kind of do your analysis this way. At the same time, we now kind of, we're going to kind of go through this in a more sophisticated type of analysis as we go through it. So this is the notebook way of analyses. Between the catalog and kind of seeing that the sample data and the information in there, and coming into a notebook and doing your ad hoc visualizations, you can code in SQL, you can use Databricks Assistant, and I can use Databricks Assistant here and ask it, ask questions like that question about the CSV, reading it in for MS3. If you you don't have Unity, but maybe you have a file out there, you can say, you know, how do I read in a CSV file into, we'll say, my catalog, or into a table. Sorry, I've been having trouble spelling today. So now, you know, from this, it tells me different, you know, how I can create that table from S3, and this would be, you know, and where it would drop it. So it would drop it in whatever catalog that is in your schema and table. So schema and table would be most applicable to you all right now. And as you go forward, the notion of the catalogs would start coming in more. So Assistant can help as well when you're trying to do these visualizations and these different analytic queries. So hand in hand, these two work together to really allow you to really kind of dive into your data more at this point within the notebook environment. So the next thing we're going to do is, we've kind of gone through the ad hoc. Okay, these are our notebooks. We can schedule these notebooks in a workflow so they update, but this is really to understand what we have. One thing we can do is we can actually create a dashboard based on this data. So there's two ways. I can create a dashboard directly from the catalog and going there, but I actually have created a dashboard already, a basic one. And of course, as with everything, yep, when I look at my dashboards, I created a dashboard from my CMS claims notebook. I actually went to one of my visualizations. Here, I can show that. Here's another one with the notebook. I actually went to my visualization down here, and I clicked add to a dashboard. When I clicked that, it actually created this dashboard that you see, dashboard from CMS claims. It created this dashboard for me. And I did it from that first visualization. So it's now regenerating that visualization from the dashboard itself. And now from here, I can actually, and this is a dashboard. So when you have a dashboard, what you can do is this can be published. You can actually add subscribers to it. You can have it updating maybe every 12 hours and every 24 hours. So your visualizations stay current as new data may come in or updated data and so on. And what I can do is I can actually add visualizations directly to here. One thing I thought was neat is the idea of creating a filter. So I'll create a visualization in a minute, but I did want to show the filtering capability. So all I did was click that button from that notebook, and I can add a filter. So let me add a filter. And that's really just a widget. So what I'm saying is I want to call this provider ID. So the count of records here, this is the number of records and the date of admission or the start date of that claim. These are the number of records that came in on each of these dates. I have this displaying weekly. So within this, it could be, I put it as weekly, it could be monthly, daily, however you want to kind of parse your data up. I just did it for weekly just to see how many were coming in per week. But one thing is that if I have a widget, maybe I want to know from a provider how many of these claims are coming in from a provider every day, you know, based on a specific provider every day. So I can actually add I forgot the provider name or the provider ID. There's a provider ID in here. Let me look. Oh, right there. Provider number. So basically, I just created a widget based on the provider number. So now one thing you'll see is that I have a list of all the providers that are represented in my data set or all of this inpatient claims data. And I can actually click on a specific provider. Like we'll count this. Now I can see over that whole time period, how many claims are attributed to this specific provider per day or per week. And I can kind of, I made it single select, but we can do multi-select. And so you kind of get to see, who, the most number of claims coming in from the different providers and so on. At the same time, I can create visualizations right here. You can ask the assistant to create a visualization for you. I generally like to kind of play around with visualizations myself in this case and, add, we can try, that'll be my y-axis, but we can do, let's do the dates again. I think the dates make the most sense and the dates were down here. So I can do the claim admission date as my x-axis, and on my y-axis, I can do the payment amount, the claim payment amount, and I can look at the sum of those claim payment amounts as the time goes through. So you can see the sum of the claims per month. This is down to the month and year. So you can look at the sum of what was paid out every month of for the inpatient claims, or what was actually on the claim for the past couple of years within this data set. All right. So much in this way, you can create these dashboards. You can actually publish this out. When you publish this out, I'll just hit publish right here. You actually can choose, okay, who's this dashboard able to be viewed? You can embed this dashboard into another application or someplace where other people, suppose you have a website and this data is meant to be shown publicly or something, then you want somebody to be able to, and they need to be able to see that. You could take this dashboard that you created and it could be published to something like that. So the dashboard will stay up to date, but those users don't get to see the data behind it. All right. You can also schedule this data. You can also schedule this to how often it will update itself. And of course, subscribers who you can get a daily email with this dashboard, monthly, however you want. So when this runs through with new data, you can get a copy of what it is. That's fine. All right. Any questions on dashboards before I jump into Genie Spaces, which to me is kind of a neat feature that grows on this. All right.
Sheila, right now there's none coming in the chat.
Okay.
Just going to give it a second, but yeah, I don't see any additional yet.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have questions at the end as well. I know that we wrap up, I think, around 3:50, so I'll go through things, and around 3:40 I'll break and we can have a live question answer session where you can ask anything you'd like. All right. So now this is probably what I find this to be kind of the neatest use case. And that is, I have this dashboard. Suppose you're creating a dashboard and this dashboard is meant to be shared with your group or kind of some of the more business stakeholders in this. They want to see certain things about the data, and you're producing these reports for them. So at this point, I look at this and I say, this isn't really the information I want to see about this data. Like this is helpful, but it's not exactly how I want the data parsed up and not exactly what I want to visualize. Like I'd like to see this in a different way or represented in a different way. So one thing you can do is Genie. So you'll see right here under dashboards there's something called Genie. Now, I'll admit, we're calling it AI BI Genie on our slides. We're calling it AI BI dashboards. We kind of like to change the names of things, but the core of it will always be Genie. So if you see Genie, that's what this is. So if I click on Genie, one thing I did was I actually, well, we can just create a Genie space together. So we're going to create one. I will call it, I'll call it the CMS Puff Data Demo. I'm also going to put my name. All right. I can put a description, whatever I'd like. I'm going to choose my SQL warehouse. So I'm going to choose my shared endpoint that we have here. And then one thing I can do is I'll add tables. What this means is that I want to be able to interact with this data using natural language. We have some data that's inherent in the dashboard, and there is functionality from the dashboard, and it's in preview right now, and it will be coming, where from the dashboard, you can actually create a Genie room directly from that, and the data available in the dashboard would be the data available within the Genie space, the Genie room itself. But that's a preview item, so we're not going to do that quite yet. But that functionality is there, and that probably makes a little bit more sense than going through it this way. But so I'm going to identify the data that I want to be able to ask questions. I don't want all of the data in the world to be able to answer my questions. I want my questions to be based exactly on the data that we just were looking at in that dashboard. So much like the inpatient claims, I also click onto, yes, I also did the same with outpatient claims. It's the same, basically this, well, they're different schemas of data, but all I did was I just enhanced the date on both of these. And those two files, they're both the 2008 to 2010 data, or 2007 to 2010. So if I'm going to confirm that and have those data, that data in there. You can give it sample questions, so that way people going into this space have an idea of different questions they can ask, anything you'd like. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. And now I've created a room to be able to chat with my data. So this is the inpatient claim data and the outpatient claim data. I can add other data sets. If I had like an ICD code dictionary to equate the codes themselves to the conditions themselves, I could add that in here and just have more intelligence to be able to answer my questions. Right off the bat, the first thing I can do is, okay, now I have this data. What does it mean? What is this data? So I just hit the explain what this data is. And it tells me that what the two different tables are, and it tells me what's common between them. And hopefully you all can see the words. I'm happy to increase the size of this if it's hard to read. But what you can see right off the bat is that it's telling you kind of basically what this data is, and then how to connect them together. That there is this column that is the patient identifier, and that's how they can be connected together. So I found that pretty useful information right off the bat. Now I've typed out a question because it's a lot of words in. Now my window is lost. Hold on one second. Oh, here it is. I found it. It's behind another window. All right. So I've typed out a question already, and I'm going to paste that question in. So one thing I wanted to ask, so when you're trying to look at your data, I was trying to find what are interesting questions. And I talked with Doug about it. And he said, one big thing is, how do you identify, potential areas that you need to look more into with the claims data? Is something that might be something to flag is, hey, let's look at how many patients had an outpatient and an inpatient claim, within 5 days of each other, so that their outpatient claim and their inpatient like start day was within those 5 days. And that wasn't represented in my dashboard, but I have the data in here so I can ask. And so now what's happening when you look at this is that in the background, my question has been converted into SQL. And since the metadata for my data is known with Genie, and this will be something that's Unity catalog based. So you'll have, so this isn't something that's immediate out of the box, but it'll be something coming hopefully in the near future, is that this has now been converted to SQL, run against my data. And so now I know there are 7,443 patients within here that had inpatient and outpatient claims within 5 days of each other. But maybe I want even more information than that. Maybe that's not granular enough for me. So show me by provider. I didn't really give it any other context. I'm saying, I asked you a question, but now I want you to parse it differently. I want to know these patients by the provider. So again, it converted it to SQL, and I get the provider, the ID number of the provider, and the patient and the number of patients that had an inpatient outpatient claim within 5 days of each other. If I look at the generated code, this is that, my mouse is not working well. All right, it's down here. This is actually the generated SQL code. I didn't need to know SQL at all, but I can look in here and say, oh, this is the code that I need. All I had to do was ask it a question, and now it's converted it. So I can take this to a dashboard. I can do kind of whatever I need to do with this. I can take this code to a notebook, whatever I want to do. But it's pretty neat to be able to kind of have that. Suppose this is something really important to be able to go, that you want to be added to the dashboard. Well, now you found this information. This is really interesting to me, and I want to add this to my dashboard. So I can. I can also visualize it. Actually, I'm going to give it another instruction to order by patient count. And what this will do is show me what provider has had the most number of patient claims within those 5 days. And you can see the provider number right here. So this begins to help you start looking at this. You can now look at, okay, is this the norm? Like what's kind of our normal amount? So let's look at, let's say, I want to see this as a bar chart. My mouse is not working well, I apologize. So no, Genie right now, you can't point to a URL specifically. The data has to exist within Unity Catalog to be able to, to be able to ask questions of it. It doesn't necessarily have to exist within within S3 itself. That data will have to exist within a catalog within Unity Catalog. So it could exist within like a different database, but it has to be like a foreign catalog or an internal catalog here. And in terms of documents, there's some pre-processing of documents that would have to take place. The idea of like vectorizing it and doing, creating a vector index and things on it is not necessarily, it's not like one of those things that it just is right away happening with Genie. It's something you have to create to be able to do that. We do have solutions for like the chatbot being able to talk with your data and so on as well. All right. Oh, my visualization didn't work quite as I expected. Before it was visualizing it, it didn't visualize the ordering of it. I think I must have hit visualize on the wrong thing. All right. Well, so you can see, you can visualize it however you want. I can visualize. So there's lots of things that we can do with this to kind of help our data. With so many providers, this might not be interesting. It's very pretty, but it's probably not as easy to figure out. But you can kind of do whatever you want with this, play around with this. The generated code is really nice to be able to add back into things. You can add more data sets in it to enrich this more, ask questions of. These Genie areas can be shared with others who have access to that data. to be able, so they can ask questions as well, and start their own conversations with the data. So there's lots of different things. So in terms of analytics, there's kind of the different stages that we've gone through, and I'm trying to wrap this up now so we can have more questions, or so we can have more time for questions. But just a summary that, we started from kind of the more basic visualizations within a notebook, where you're really kind of doing more exploratory analytics, and moving on to dashboarding, so you can generate reports and generate those visualizations for others to consume by, text and widgets and things within your dashboard. They're pretty advanced dashboards that you can create in that way. And then kind of going one step further from there, and this is like the future coming to your environment, where you can take that data and kind of take what you learned in the dashboard and enhance it even more by really dialing down on what you really want to see, because not everybody has the same asks of data. It's nice to be able to go in and see it in the way that you want to see it. So any questions?
Hey, Sheila, yep, we had, I think 3 now come in. Unfortunately, my Zoom dropped in the middle of your demo. So I'm hoping that at this point I recorded them all. Felt like I was doing a pretty decent job of keeping up with them. So hopefully I didn't miss any, and hopefully you didn't answer any while I was gone. So the first one is, can we put it to a URL?
Right.
And
I
I'm
tried to
not
answer
exactly sure
those.
when that was asked in terms of when you were presenting.
Right. That was asked during Genie. So I think I addressed that as well as the chatting with documents during the course
Okay,
of the
perfect.
right.
Yeah, shortly after that's when I lost my connection. So,
I think Derek answered the
then,
last one.
I'm sorry.
I think Derek answered the last one.
Yep, yeah, he just wrote that as I was asking those, and I think that is all we have so far.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, we just, yep, had one come in.
So embedding that, so let's play around. Let's go to dashboards. So I'm a firm believer that I'd rather show capabilities than talk to it. So, and I'm not sure you can embed it in a Word document, but let's see what we can do. I don't think it's share. I have to find that embed. Well, let's ask. This is my favorite part of Assistant, is that I just ask it everything. So can we embed a... It's not supported as embedding it into a web page. So you can create what they're saying. You can actually export the dashboard as a PDF. I knew you could do that and then take that PDF in your Word document, but then it wouldn't be a living and breathing dashboard at that point. You would have to replace it if the dashboard were to change. But yes, you can export as PDF if you put it on the website, or or if you put it on a web page or something, then it would update. In terms of the model behind it, it is OpenAI GPT. What was it, Doug? GPT
3.5, and we're moving to 4 soon.
All right, and then.
But it's also just for people who are familiar with the different GPT models, you might be surprised that we're using 3.5. It's a highly tuned 3.5, which is why we're deploying it, because the cost per token is significant, like an order of magnitude less. And we found that we could make 3.5 extremely performant by fine tuning it and then passing on those savings to the customers without having to overcharge you for using 4. But we're getting close to 4 turbo. So there we go.
And then there's a question about, does Genie work in a coding type notebook or just in visualizations? So Genie itself is kind of this space where you can just ask, I'm not even in Genie, hold on 1 second, where you can just ask the questions and have the answers in English. In terms of the notebook environment and like with SQL queries, things like that, you can ask questions and like get code back using Assistant. So if I were just in the notebook itself, Oh, it'd be faster to go this way. I have another tab with the notebook. If I were to just go in the notebook itself, you can start typing, or you can generate your command. You don't have the, actually you probably do have this now. You can start typing it and you can generate this with AI right now. And so if you want to know, get like coding help and stuff, you can get it from here. The big difference is that with Genie, the metadata for the data within your Genie space, the data that you've added to it, the metadata is used it's kind of infused into the answers to your question. So it's basically giving you answers directly based on your data, which is not what is happening here. The metadata is not used to answer the questions within here. So if I said, why don't I just ask it if I asked this, that same question, and I'm going to copy it. And if I would say something like this, what this will do is that, because I have it in cache already, it's putting it in. So it gave me this SQL code. If I hadn't been running with this data, if I had like a new compute or something like that, this would be a more generic answer. It wouldn't actually know the data that I had in here. Whereas with Genie, from the beginning, it knows the data I have in there. Does that make sense? Any other questions?
We had two others. Nope. Yeah, those were the most recent ones. Okay.
We have a couple of minutes if you'd like me to click anywhere. I kind of just like to click around and play.
Oh, Sheila, if we have time, show them the metadata generator for the table.
The one thing you'll see as you go forward, when Unity Catalog is enabled, let me go back to my catalog. I talked to you about the data that we had, and I created this inpatient claims data. Inpatient claims sample was directly from that CSV file. So one thing I can show you is, one thing you'll be able to see is you'll start looking at lineage. So this is the table that we're looking at, inpatient claims. You can see that it came from this inpatient claim sample, and that this came directly from that CSV file in a volume, which is really just a space in S3 where I just read in the file. And you can actually look at this down to kind of column level. There's a lot of columns, so seeing this might be kind of hard. I showed the 85 here, you can kind of see column level lineage, where did, how they flowed into each other and so on. So you can see I've tried, I'm going to hide these columns so that way we can actually look at this and make it big. So you can see I kind of played around a bunch with the different data sources just to kind of see the data coming in. And so it's kind of neat. You can start seeing that. At the same time, what Doug is talking about is that, like, inpatient claims. If I were to look at an overview of it and I see, this generated description of what this is, but this is, the generated descriptions here, I can actually generate column descriptions. And I'll admit, this is what I used when I was doing the notebook, because I had no idea what any of these acronyms or any of these abbreviations meant. I actually used this to help me kind of craft what I wanted to ask, because I didn't know what this data was. And so this actually generates it. If you want to keep it, you can click the check mark, and then this comment will actually stay with this column. So in terms of analytics, when this is available to you, this becomes very helpful just to understand what is in the data itself, without having, requiring someone to go in and change all the column names to something that you recognize, or have to hand annotate everything with what it actually means. So that becomes a pretty exciting thing, or it makes like data discovery and things much easier for analytics, as well as other use cases you might want to do. So there's so that's an interesting question. So the advantage of QuickSight compared to what we just described, the main difference really is that with this, it's on platform. It's kind of all unified together in one space. In one space, you can look at it. If you're already using QuickSight and you have things already your visualizations, your dashboards already kind of built up there, then you can use that just as easily. You can point it to a SQL warehouse. You can still ask these queries. This is just kind of the on-platform way to do it, where you just, in one click, you're in the next area and you're able to start working with your dashboards here, and kind of everything is here for you to be able to, that we want to make this easier for users. And that's kind of our goal going forward. Let's get let's get people who are on the platform, let's give them an easier time to work with their data and be able to get to the outcomes that they want quickly and easily. And so that this is definitely part of it. And so it really depends, like, have you been using QuickSight and have things in there as well, or then you probably don't want to get rid of that if you have a lot of stuff built up in there already. So you can just integrate it.
And then Sheila, we do need to wrap up here in a minute or so.
All right, I can send answers over as well. I can send limitations. And Derek, I'll send those to you. Usually within our documents, we have like a section about limitations that, and I'll send those over.
Yeah, that would be great. I wanted to get a good feel for it for the community, since you're talking claims data, and there's definitely a very, very high volume when it comes to the data we have in the CDR.
Right. Can you click edit when in a notebook? Let's open our notebook. Can I click edit? So I'll admit, I don't know where the edit is. Where the edit is within there. So I'm not sure I can answer that. Oh, edit here. Sorry, the undo is grayed out. Performance. Let me see if I do this. Oh, I don't know why the undo is grayed out. That's interesting. I've always just used the splat Z to undo, so I'll find that out. That's interesting. And then complex linkages prior to building the dashboard. You're talking in terms of like
drop down 2. She gives an example. One lower.
Oh yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, I was going to say for sure.
Yeah, you would determine, kind of just like you would join any data sets, right? You would determine what means what, and things like Genie, you can give it instructions as to what that linkage, what it means, and it would be able to answer those questions for you. And you can look at the SQL, like the SQL code behind those Genie queries that would also allow you to build that in the dashboard as well.
One thing we haven't really addressed yet, and will in the future, is talking about using SQL queries and being able to automate those and that process, and how that can be fed in feed into the pipeline for dashboards and such.
Right. And we can talk about that as well. Yes, we can do SQL queries. These can also be incorporated into a workflow or a pipeline. And these would also kind of be the backbone for the for dashboards as well. But dashboards are scheduled, as I showed you earlier. All right.
Okay, Sheila, if it's okay with you, I think we are going to wrap our session just so we can give everyone a quick 5-minute break before we move on to our next session.
Well, thanks everyone for having us. Enjoy the rest of Data Camp, and definitely feel free to ask questions. We talk with the team every week, so We're happy to answer anything.
A big thank you to Sheila and Doug. This was a great session and we always love a demo. And then I think at this point, Sheila, you were able to get to all of our questions with the exception of Derek. And I know you said you would reach back out to him. But just a note, we will get all of those published and answered in a PDF form. That way everyone can refer back to them as needed. And if you want to learn from someone else's question, they're there as well. And that goes for all of our sessions. So thank you so much. And our next session will begin in 5 minutes. I will get that deck brought up, and that is going to be, I believe CCSQ QuickSight. Let me find that. ML Insights. So let me get that up. And in the meantime, please feel free to take a quick 5-minute break and join us back here at 4 p.m.